And hello, everyone. This is Antony Scandale, and thank you for joining me today. This is season 2 of my podcast, number 1 episode with Adrian, the champ Starks. When we did a podcast about 3 weeks ago, we pre-recorded this. So what you're about to hear is the topic on the journey and what it takes to get to where you want to be. Because honestly, folks, we're all on this journey. We're all in this together. We may as well help each other out. But Adrian has some cool ideas which may help you out along your journey. So please, sit back and listen to part 1 of 3, and we'll talk soon. Take care. Adrian, again, thank you for joining me today.
Hey, thank you, Anthony. It's great to be here again, and thank you for having me on. And the last time you and I talked was, I believe, in 2017.
2017, and it was literally the day before I went to Italy. We did a short podcast. It was the first one. But again, thank you so much for being here today. And again, like we last talked, yeah, you had an event in LA, but then recently you were in New York. So yeah, tell us your journey, what's going on, because I know you love talking to people, and I know you love helping as many people as you possibly can. So yeah, explain that, please.
Oh yeah, thank you. You know, last time we talked, I was going to be speaking in LA, and speaking of the journey for the people that are listening this today, things change. The road doesn't always seem straight. It curves and it detours. And so the situation in LA did not work. But There was something that came up for Buffalo, New York instead. And I was that person waiting on that opportunity. I did not hesitate. I jumped right on it. And I ended up working with a gentleman who's still my publicist and promoter, John Mazzolinas.
Okay.
And we ended up connecting over a few months, planning out the trip to Buffalo, what that looked like, what was it going to be like, who would be the audience I would be speaking to, what was the message, and it took place. Everything manifested as it should.
That's awesome. So, you know, sometimes it happens when we are on our journey to life, and like you said, we got these curves and these hurdles, and I've always felt that you know, these hurdles are not always the same height. They're really tall. Some of them are really short, but it just depends on how high you jump and get over to the other side. But I'm sure there was a bit of a point where you felt it was really disappointing just to hear that LA didn't, go through. So what was going on in your mind in that situation when you realized, hey, LA has fallen through?
I realized that those things happen. And this is part of our personal journeys where we have to be prepared for the things that may not go accordingly as planned. So was I disappointed? Yeah, I was disappointed. But I did not let that deter me from moving on to the next opportunity. I just said, okay, next thing in line. What can I do now? Right. And I did not close my eyes. I just said, okay, let's move to the next thing. Regardless of this hurdle, let's jump over it and let's roll into the next one. And that's when the situation from Buffalo, New York came up for us.
Right. So there must have been some sort of preparation. So when you're in that situation where things just go to crap, can you just take us through what you would do in that situation to prepare for the next thing? Because there is that sort of uncertainty and there's that sense of unknown of what's going to happen in your future.
The first thing is to understand that it's situational, not personal. I have learned this.
Oh, I like
when
that.
Something occurs and it's a failure, it's not personal, it's situational. And we have to look at it like that's a situation. That's not me. I tried, I put my effort in, I showed up, I played full out, and it just did not work. So now I'll move on to the next situation. And for anyone that's listening, this is what you can do. When you have that moment where everything just caves in and you're like, I was not expecting that, you have to move on from it. Recognize it, acknowledge the emotion you have in behind it. Don't suppress that emotion, because if you suppress it, it will arise in something else. And just say, this sucks right now.
Yeah.
This is not right. But then you just move on from it and say, okay, now what can I get my hands on next?
Right. And so when you're in that state of mind when you're just like, this this sucks. And it's funny that there's two ways to go about it. You can really sit there and be like, oh man, not this again, and then everything else sort of snowballs. But for you, it's kind of like, no, man, move on just as quickly as it happened. And I agree with you that that's one thing that I really had to learn too was it is situational. I don't know what I don't know, but what I feel is necessary is I need to feel better all over again. Because it is gonna knock the wind out of you. It's gonna knock you down. Mm-hmm. But it's just like, okay, well, what can I do? What can I do to make myself feel good? What I do is I just take a deep breath. And I think of like my niece and nephews because they're hilarious. Like, and instantly, like when I think of them, that's just the picture I get in my brain. It's like, yeah, those kids are so funny. It just makes me feel better all over again. Then I start looking for other things. So, what's something that you would do or something you picture to kind of get yourself back on track, so to speak, so that you're able to move on a little bit quicker?
The vision, the vision of keeping everything clear and all else will appear is what I go by.
Right.
And knowing that, the vision has to be something that you always keep in front of you no matter what happens. And so I recall what things have been going right.
Right.
What things have I been doing currently that has led to this point? And what things can I continue to do that's going to take me a little further? And it doesn't matter that things don't happen perfectly. What matters is that things are happening. And if a door closes, I'm not going to be that person trying to jar that door open once it closes shut. I'm the person saying, hey, there's a cracked door over there. Let me go see what I can do with this one. And that's how we have to see our opportunities. And what we have to realize, too, is that opportunities move. Opportunities are not stagnant. They're not going to come to us and just say, here you go. Everything's going to be lined up accordingly to you. Have a great life. Yeah. Opportunities are elusive, and they will show up very fast and then dart out. And what you have to be keen on is be a person that's like you have this focus, like you're hunting, and you say, if I miss this opportunity, if you look at all the animals in the wild, I'm going to bring this up.
Yeah.
And if you look at animals that are chasing other animals, and for the people that may not be into that or they are vegetarians, I'm sorry to bring this up, but I'm just giving a picture of this. When an animal is hunting another animal and they miss that opportunity, they don't say, okay, I'm not going to eat today.
Right.
They look at something else and say, okay, what's the next thing in line here? Maybe smaller. It may not be the first choice for me, but it still will give me something that I need at that point in time. So the key is when you fail at something or something doesn't go right that day, what else can you experience that day? What else can you pay attention to? What can you begin to focus on that can help you override that moment?
Right. We're going to talk about motivation in just a moment with you, Adrian, because I know you've got lots to say about that. So when we get back, we're going to have Adrian Starks talk to us about motivation and what to do when you're not feeling 100% and what keeps you going. But I do remember something that you said yesterday when we chatted was about a quote by Jim Quick. If you wouldn't mind telling me what that one's about and reminding the rest of us about that one, because it's perfect.
Jim Quick, the Mr. Super Brain King.
Yeah.
Jim Quick said that if you win the morning, you win the day. And I'm all about winning. So when he said that, I was like, hey, that is something I got to put in that treasure chest of mine and keep it there, bring out every now and then. And it's true. When we start our day off a certain way, it's most likely we will end the day that way because we're all living a cycle of life. And what we do comes right back to us. How we act comes right back to us. What we give comes right back to us. So if you start your morning with this mentality of, oh, my goodness, here's another day.
Yeah.
Or I just can't wait till it's Friday. If you have that mentality, then guess what happens with it? Your whole day drags, and you find every situation to match that particular attitude you had in the morning.
I can't agree with you more. This is information I'd wish I'd known about maybe 10 or 15 years ago. We're going to come back in a moment, again, speaking with my good friend Adrian Starks, and in a bit we're going to talk about motivation, so stick around.
You're listening to
Antony Scandale.
Ignite your inner power and watch your world change.